got a feeling, a great feeling from Jimmy Lakey. Jimmy Lakey in the morning makes me feel alive. Woke me up this morning, now I'm up and on my way. Oh, 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 yeah, what a great way to start your day, the Lakey way.
Well, top of the morning to you, everybody. How the heck are you? Hotel Art behind me. I am live from the St. Louis, Missouri area in town for a couple of days here. I'll be here today broadcasting and podcasting, streamcasting, whatever we call this. And also, I will be here Monday before returning back to the Colorado studio. And then I'm home for a couple of days and I'm back to the Dallas area. So a little whirlwind of a traveling time for me, but glad to have you here. If you're brand new, picking up new audience all the time, we just launched our new podcast, which is a version of this that just goes out after the show. It is this show live. People listen to it after the fact. It's on all the streaming platforms. And if you're joining us this morning from any of those stream platforms because you picked up the Lakey Unleashed streamcast, more power to you. Welcome to the live show. And if you're listening in the afternoon and you say, I'd like to see this show live and see how handsome this fella is, top of the morning to you. I'd love to have you here. 8 o'clock Mountain Time, 10 o'clock Eastern Time. I'm in the Central Time Zone, started off at 9 o'clock. So here we are together. And since we don't have our Studio Rivers Promise banner behind us, I wear it on my head to constantly remind you about the good work that we do in charity and to hope you'll participate with us accordingly. President Trump, breaking news this morning, is threatening to say, hey, all of you sanctuary cities, no more funding. You're done. All in favor say aye. Lift those hands in the studio. I see those hands. I think that's a fantastic idea. As a matter of fact, I think it probably already should have been done. That if you are receiving federal funds and yet you are not obeying federal law, then why should we as a nation give you anything? And why should we supplement and support your lawlessness? I think we should not. And suck it up, buttercup, figure it up. You have sanctuary city, sanctuary state policies. Well, figure out how to pay for them yourself because the rest of America that likes to abide by the law does not need to pay for those policies. So President Trump, if you're listening to the program, which we suspect you sometimes might, just saying, please make sure that you dump out those crazy supports of these sanctuary cities. Rich says, good morning and welcome to the great state of Missouri. The show me state it is. The show me state it is. There's Arkansas. We're represented all up and down the Arkansas, Missouri, they're like a valley or something. I've got a lot of listeners out here, and I should have said I'm coming to see all of you, but I'm not. I was coming to see my son who attends college here. But rainy. Growing up in Dallas, it's funny when you drive to the high desert where I live in Colorado, you very seldom get overcast days or overcast all day. You do get some, and you just have a lot of sunshine and you don't have a lot of moisture in the air. And these weird, muggy, strange days in which you watch the storms blow through. It's absolutely positively fascinating. And I grew up with that. And you may get a clap of thunder in the middle of the night. Of course, I don't think we're in what we would call Tornado Alley, being the St. Louis area, but that's a little bit further west than us. But it's still the storms coming in, watching them roll in. It was absolutely fun. And it makes you sleep well. Sleep well in a hotel because I don't know, you just kind of foggy and dreary outside, and you had a day of travel. So anyway, all right, let's come to some news. What do you say? We gather here together for some news. Oh, and one of the top stories out there from all of you listeners in Colorado and really around America, you should pay attention to this story. We've been talking about it off and on this program for a couple of weeks now with Laura Carno talking about it. Sheriff Steve Reams from Weld County talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But our legislature in Colorado is bat crap crazy. They could pretty much be the General Assembly of the Communist Chinese government. That's how crazy they are. And our governor, Jared Polis, might as well just be some third world two-bit dictator out there that has all sorts of crazy ass laws and restricts freedom. Now, he does pretend like a good dictator would and propagandizes himself as some kind of a libertarian and a moderate Democrat, but he's as crazy as they come. And the speculation this week, we talked about this, I think, on Monday or Tuesday, that the question was whether or not Jared Polis, our little feckless um, I'm trying to keep my words very clean, is, according to sources, was he going to actually sign the bill that came across his desk? I think it's called Senate Bill 3, but or would he just let it sit on his desk for 10 days and let it pass? And that way he says, I had nothing to do with it. Well, evidently, Jared Polis grew a pair of communist balls, and if he didn't already have them, and he unleashed them from the box that Marlon was holding them in, and he signed off on a bill that makes it even harder to obtain weapons, especially with semi-automatic automatic capabilities in Colorado. The state already has a large ban on magazine capacity, anything greater than 15 rounds, but Senate Bill 3 takes it to a new step. It outlaws the purchase of and sale of specific semi-automatic firearms that accept detachable large capacity magazines unless the purchaser completes a firearms safety training, passes a background check, and obtains a permit from a county sheriff. It also outlaws rapid fire conversion devices. Fort Collins Representative Andy Boosnecker, who's the radical leftist commie speaker pro tem from the Fort Collins area and a Democrat representing House District 53, was one of the prime sponsors of the bill. So Northern Colorado, you have a bunch of commies among you that you elected, and these are your neighbors. That's who they are. It's an incredible thing to step forward for our state for gun violence prevention. Isn't it amazing? Bosennecker is very worried about gun violence prevention. And yet the states that have the most severe gun laws are actually the most violent. And has Bosennecker done anything about Colorado leading the nation in car thievery under Jared Polis? See, while these people are all obsessed about gun violence, Colorado is climbing, and becoming an unsafe cesspool of hatred and vitriol and radicals in Tren de Aragua. But Bosennecker doesn't want to talk about that. Bosennecker, this radical commie from Fort Collins area, doesn't want to talk about the other crimes that are circulating that don't involve guns. But while the Democrats and Bosennecker and these radicals and Jared Polis are focused on all sorts of gun violence, and they do this every year, the potholes are still on the street. The kids still can't read, write, and do arithmetic. The schools in Colorado absolutely suck for the most part. It's not a place you want to move your family. I've lived here for 25 years, and I would say avoid it. You wouldn't want to vacation here in many parts of what we call the Front Range, especially in the Denver area, because it has become a cesspool of violence and poop on the sidewalk, and it looks like San Francisco in some parts of downtown Denver. But Bosennecker, and by the way, Fort Collins looks a lot the same way. Fort Collins has become the northern Colorado cesspool of homelessness because people like Bosennecker are focused on all of the wrong priorities. So anyway, Colorado, you end up getting what you pay for, and you're getting what you vote for, and some of us did not vote for it, but here you have it. Jared Polis, the silver lining of this whole thing is that it could be that Jared Polis finally exposes himself, and not that way. Oh, God, let's hope not. He finally exposes himself to be the radical that he is. He's always liked to play up that he's more of a libertarian, and this is a bill that there's not a damn libertarian that's a true libertarian in the whole wide world would ever pass. So I have to tell you, it's a horrible day for Colorado. It could be a good day for America because America, you might have just let Jared Polis let you see up underneath the kimono and see what kind of a radical communist constitution hating man that he is. He's a man that hates the Constitution. He hates Second Amendment freedoms. He hates free speech. Anybody who speaks out against him, he wishes they'd be silenced, or he demeans them and talks down to them, especially if they're women. He has a very bad reputation among how he handles and talks to the lady friends, including my friend Heidi Ganahl, who ran for governor. And Heidi ran for governor, and he dismissed her the entire time as a Republican candidate with a little lady. Shouldn't you be running for school board? Because Jared Polis has an anti-Constitution, misogynistic anchor to him that I think he's now exposing. And it could be a bad day for Colorado with his signature, but it could be a very, very, very good day for America, because now you get to see what type of a tyrant Jared Polis is as you peek underneath that nasty ass kimono. God, I hate to put the visual in your head, but you get the idea. Speaking of radical Colorado Democrats, sorry to start off with so many Colorado-centric stories, because I know many of you checking in from Missouri and other places, but Senator Michael Bennet, we affectionately call him Marble Mouth. He's not the most, I don't think it's a speech impediment. I think he's either drunk or just can't open his mouth. He may have a defect. I don't know. He talks, he just kind of mumbles his words. And he's a guy that it's amazing. He he ran for president. You might remember we had two Colorado senators, Hickenlooper and Bennett, run for president 4.5 years ago, 5 years ago. And of course, Joe Biden got the nomination, and the rest is history there, right? Well, Bennett and Hickenlooper are two of the most kind of awkward fellers you'll ever meet. They're never going to be on televisions winning speeches for oratory and rhetoric. They're just not going to do it. They're drive-by bomb throwers with their staff launching Twitter feeds out there, and they both sound like they're half drunk half the time. And I've heard maybe some of them are. I don't know. John Hickenlooper's background is a geologist and a barmaid. He's a barkeep. That's what he was. Bennett came in at high finance, ended up somehow finagling a job as the Denver public school superintendent, and then he was appointed to take over the spot that Ken Salazar left to be Obama's interior secretary, and he has served the state of Colorado ever since. But the thing you have to know about Michael Bennett is he's not a Coloradoan. Coloradoans, if they're native and or if they become a Coloradan, become very rugged, kind of individualistic people, except now we have become a bunch of pansies. But it used to be that way, that you kind of evolutionize into this rugged, individualistic people. Well, Bennett hated Colorado. Bennett never wanted to represent the people of Colorado, maybe the elites in the Denver area, maybe the socialist commies in the Denver area, in the Boulder area, maybe the people that would be part of the Politburo. But outside of that, you've got a lot of rural and agricultural parts of Colorado. And Michael Bennett was just really liking to say, could I please stay in Washington? So he got the Senate appointment. He wished he would have probably gotten that Senate appointment from some more elite place, because he's higher than all of us. He views himself as more elite than all of us. His family is a bunch of Ivy League type people. And so he would have loved to have been a senator from New Hampshire, let's say, or Rhode Island, or the state of Maine, or Connecticut. But instead, he had to represent for all these years the rubes and the boobs from Colorado in the U.S. Senate. And that's not necessarily been, I don't think, the dream job, because I think Colorado was just a passing place on the way to greater career back east. But he got stuck here. So as soon as he had the chance, he ran for president, hoping that he could forever shake the dust off of his feet of the Colorado, because, again, he only wants to represent the Politburo and the very elite of Colorado. Well, presidential run didn't work. We called him Michael Marblemouth Bennett, and now Michael Marblemouth Bennett has announced that he is going to run for Colorado governor. So just when you think you're free and Governor Polis may be going away, Michael Bennett has launched a campaign for Colorado's governorship. There's other people that are running for this as well. It's going to be a very interesting story to see what they say. There's talk about now who's going to run to replace Michael Bennett in the U.S. Senate. Joe Neguse comes to mind. He represents Colorado's 2nd congressional district. He is a Pelosi whipping boy, is who Joe Neguse is. There's you've got our man down Aurora, Jason Crow, who's also from the Nancy Pelosi rung of candidates out there. So there's going to be now a race to replace Michael Bennett in the Senate. And then you're also then going to have, it sets up a pretty interesting primary right now between Michael Bennett and our current Attorney General also running. There'll be other Democrats jump in. But hey, just when you think Colorado politics can't get any dumber and can't get any worse, you could end up with the Governor Michael Bennett following up the Governor Jared Polis, and it will make you long and wish you had the days of John Hickenlooper. So everybody hold on to your hat. There's a lot happening in the state of Colorado, and we will continue to follow it in the days that lie ahead. But so far, it's kind of scary out there. It really is. All right, let's jump into a couple of other topics of conversation. We're waiting the arrival of Orrin McIntyre. Orrin McIntyre is going to be on the program here momentarily. He's a confirmed guest, so we will wait to see when he shows up. Let me ask you, my friends, if a lot of you have left the state of Colorado. I see these people pop in our chat rooms, and they have left the state of Colorado, and they say, used to be there, glad I'm gone. Could you comment to what it was that drove you away from the state of Colorado? I'd like all of you who, again, maybe you should listen to me on the radio. I know we have people in Florida, people in Texas, people in Missouri, people in Arkansas. People have already said hello all across America this morning. And if you're listening in the afternoon of the podcast and this is not live, drop me a note, because as I go through this news that's more Colorado-centric and we have people all over, I just like to hear why it is that some of you escaped. Was Jared Polis, were Democrat politics one of the reasons that you decided not to retire or not to stay in the state that maybe you grew up in? I just love to hear your thoughts. Lots of open opportunity here for discussion, but give me your ideas on all the platforms that we're on, whether you're on one of the Facebook feeds, the Twitter or X feeds, whether you're on Rumble. We see those comments here in the studio, and we can even pop those up on screen in due course. Or if you don't want to put it on the screen, it has to do that, just send me an email. I really would love to hear how many of you literally, and I don't want you making stuff up, literally moved out of the state of Colorado because of people like Jared Polis. Because I've said this earlier this year with Sherry Pye earlier this week, and I also said it with Laura Carno. I've lived in Colorado for over 25 years, pushing 30 years, I guess. Most of my adult life and college life, after post-college life, I didn't get here too long after college. And I'm telling you, the last 6 years, 7 years, it has gone to hell in a handbasket faster than any other time throughout the time that I've been here. And that's because Jared Polis has shown leadership and willingness to go to the depths of deep, dark liberalism and communism. And this gun bill shows that that's exactly right. So love to hear from you. If you've left the state, and because a lot of you are kind of expats from Colorado, and that's how you found me because you used to listen to the radio show with me. I just love to hear why it is that you have left the state, and give me specific reasons. Don't just say Jared Polis sucks. What was it about the policy that drove you away? Were it restrictive gun laws and the attack on the Second Amendment, like we're talking about now? Was it the fact that the cost of living continues to go up? There's so many reasons that I can think of. Give me specificity. I'd love to put these on the screen here in just a bit, and glad to have you paying attention to the program. All right. Let me welcome into the program, as advertised and promoted and conversed about, Aaron McIntyre. He is again, by the way, if you're wondering what my background is today, I'm broadcasting here in the St. Louis, Missouri area. I've flown into town for the next several days to see my son, who's in college, playing a college spring football game. So I'm in for the football game today, and I'll be here throughout the weekend and be back Monday. So not back to the regular studio until later. But Aaron McIntyre is the author of The Total State: How Liberal Democracies Become Tyrannies, also the host of the Aaron McIntyre Show, columnist for Blaze News. And he joins me here. Let me hit the right button here. Joins me here in the hotel room studio. You've got a cool studio. I've got hotel art behind me.
I've been there before, so I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you here. A couple of topics I want to get to. We're sitting here talking about the state of Colorado and some crazy gun bill that has been passed by our governor, who pretends to be a libertarian, pretends to be a moderate, but he's left of Gavin Newsom in most instances, really. And when I read your title of your book, how democracy become tyrannies, and read the exact title, I don't want to screw it up. It makes me think of what the hell happened to Colorado. Somehow the beautiful democracy and glorious state of Colorado has become a crazy tyranny. I know you wrote it kind of for a focus on the nation, but it happens state by state as well, Lauren.
Well, obviously, one of the things that we saw through COVID is the difference that regional leadership makes, right? So I live in the state of Florida. I have Governor DeSantis, who's a rock star. And so we see a very different response here than we did in many other states. My life under COVID was drastically different. And that doesn't just apply there, obviously. Gun rights, free speech, even parental rights when it comes to whether or not the state can come in and steal your child if you refuse to mutilate them under the excuse of some kind of medical operation. Ultimately, people are recognizing more and more that it's not just the national level, but the local and state level that really matters. When these things break down, when people try to impose tyranny, it matters if you live next to people who share your values, which is why in Florida, we're undergoing a great sort. It was a state that was, kind of purple, trending blue most of my life. And now we've turned bright red. And I think a big reason for that is people recognizing that it's not enough to just be in a state and vote against the crazies in your state, but you have to start moving next to people who actually believe and think and want to live the same way that you do.
We have another bill passing through our Colorado legislature. I'm guessing Jared Polis will sign it. And it is a bill that basically says that if you are a biological man, and I refer to you as he, and even though there's no other reason than your personal preference that you want to be known as she or it or Z or whatever, then I have offended you and I could be facing a fine and crime because I have misgendered you, even though I had no evidence I'd misgendered you. And it also deals with something called dead naming. that if by chance if by chance you refer to someone's name as they previously were, you refer to them as Jules or Julian, and now they become Julia, you could, I mean, it literally becomes a crime to not go along with pick a pronoun, any pronoun, and you use that to identify with it. It literally makes it a crime.
Yeah, and I'd have to look at the wording of the specific bill to understand how that's triggered, but the fact that something like that could even be proposed is absolutely insane when we live in a country where free speech is supposed to be one of the most critical values, where it's enshrined in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. You think it would be absolutely insane that anyone would even try to float such a proposition, and yet they're very popular. And in many cases, this is not just the government. This is why I titled the book The Total State. While having these draconian rules coming down from the government is bad enough, the truth is that most people follow these dictates due to the social and corporate implications. It's the fact that you can't get a job, you can't be on social media, you might have a wife or friends that leave or divorce you or don't want to talk to you because you're no longer politically viable. You can no longer be seen in polite company out in public. These are the pressures that ultimately really keep most people from exercising their freedoms and their rights in the United States. And so while it's very important to watch what, of course, our governments are doing, the thing is really that most of this legislation is lagging behind the enforcement that is coming from many corporations, universities, and even social media companies.
We've seen some of these. Oh, by the way, the bill that's up in Colorado also it implies, and a lot of people read certain lines of it, it implies that if you're a parent and you're not going along with the transitioning of your 8-year-old, then you probably should have that child removed and taken to social services because you're an abusive parent. So it's also in the language as well. And again, we can dive into it another time. We've seen this happen, though. We elect Donald Trump, and suddenly Facebook starts to become a little bit less tyrannical. Google hasn't gotten there. YouTube hasn't gotten there. On this show here, we're on those platforms, and we have to be careful. If we put up too much writing, they'll ban us in a heartbeat. It'll be like our billionth strike or something like that. But you see some of these companies kind of morph and go in the wind based on who's in the presidency, and I think they've moderated a little bit under the auspices of Donald Trump. But how is it that people keep voting for this stuff? Who we vote for matters. And it just is amazing that, yeah, we get pressured by our companies to do it and the media tells us to do it. But when we have the chance to speak out, we have the chance to go to the ballot box. We go to the ballot box and choose people like our governor, Jared Polis, or Gavin Newsom. We keep picking the same people that give us the same problems.
Well, and I address this at great length in the book because it's ultimately, I think, the thing we have to look at is the problems of mass democracy. When we see that our Congress has an approval rating often of less than 10%, but it has an incumbency rating of about 90%. That should tell us something. Something is going on. If democracy is working the way it's supposed to, if popular sovereignty really decides who's in charge, why do we keep getting people who are so deeply unpopular returned back into the system? And the answer that I come to in the book is that ultimately what we have is a system that is designed to manipulate popular sovereignty, that our media, our academia, our sense-making institutions like non-governmental institutions or the unelected bureaucracy inside the United States, they are working together in shared interests to manipulate the population and the information that they can have. We saw this again most clearly during COVID, but that was just the most obvious manifestation of something that happens all the time. And so in many cases, it doesn't matter if the certain people are unpopular because the way the vote is manipulated allows them to repeatedly return to office. And even sometimes when the people do speak, ultimately the system conspires to turn against them. Think about that in California just back in 2008. I know that seems like a long time ago, but it's really not. They voted against gay marriage. They voted for Proposition 8 in the most liberal state in the union. And yet now, if you come out against gay marriage, you'd get fired from most major corporations. Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were against gay marriage when they ran the first time, at least publicly. And now this has changed. So even though the people of California voted against this, the Supreme Court decided that they needed to overturn the people's belief, and they put the legal sanctions on so hard that it became the popular position. So to the point now where every corporation backs it, actually supports it. And so you have this moment where the people spoke, but it just didn't matter. It's not that the people got it wrong. It's not that they didn't turn out to the polls. They were just ignored by the people in power.
Yeah, we can name a couple of things in Colorado specifically that happened that way. We voted for oil and gas and exploration and continue that because a large part of Colorado is rural and agricultural. And by a huge majority, we said, no, these setbacks don't work. Let's keep things going. Let's make some money in Colorado. And the legislature came to the next session, and they not only passed the same thing, that they passed more restrictive notes for the oil and gas industry than what the people have voted for. So these politicians don't mind thumbing their finger in the nose and thumping it on the head, the will of the people, until we, the people, figure out how to stop that. We're screwed. We're screwed, Aaron. I'm telling you, it's not when they publicly and purposefully and visibly defy the will of the people, and yet it's like we have Stockholm syndrome. We just keep coming back to them.
Well, again, I think it's often manipulation. Let me tell you a quick story. When I was a local journalist here in Florida, we had a bunch of animal rights activists show up to events saying that they needed to stop greyhound racing because it was abusive for dogs. And they kept showing up at multiple events across many different political persuasions. And I started to think, that's odd. I wonder what's going on here. And the more I looked into it, the more I recognized that these activists were actually being funded by the Seminole Indian tribe in Florida, because it turns out that greyhound racing tracks were the only ones that were allowed to run gambling facilities, parimutuel facilities, besides the Seminole Indian tribe. So these people were not interested in animal rights at all. They were not trying to prevent animal abuse. They were running around on the part of multi-billionaires trying to shut down their competitors in the gambling ring. But all of the good people who just looked at these poor animals and said, oh, I feel so bad for them, they didn't know they were being manipulated by multi-billionaires into getting rid of their only competition. They thought they were just doing the right thing. And in Florida, we passed the bill that banned greyhound racing. So they successfully canceled the only competition to casinos in Florida and secured a monopoly on it just by lying to people and manipulating their goodwill when it came to the democratic process. This is just an isolated example of something that happens all the time in the United States.
The name of your book, The Total State, How Liberal Democracies Become Tyrannies. How far on the pendulum have we gone in the United States of America, Aaron? What is the clarion call to tap the brakes that you put in the book?
I think we got pretty much all the way there. When you get to the point where people are shutting down churches, where you're not allowed to go worship, but you are allowed to go to the liquor store or to the strip club. When you get to the point where people aren't allowed to go to their friends' or their families' funerals, but people are allowed to riot in the streets if they have the right political persuasion, you have violated pretty much all of the constitutional rights. You have blown away freedom of assembly. You have blown away freedom of speech. You have blown away freedom of religion. And yet, most people in the United States just kind of went along with it. I think we got very, very, very lucky that Donald Trump has returned to office and that he is very serious about attacking what I call the total state, or many people call the administrative state, the deep state. He recognizes how important it is to dismantle these different institutions, not just swap out a few people in the personnel, but things like the Department of Education, things that are only designed to propagandize our children and have no value, have never done anything to improve education. In fact, education has only tanked the entire time this organization has existed. Trump knows this. Now, it's still a huge battle. It's a tall climb. I don't know if he's going to be able to do it in the time that he has, but just the fact that guys like he and JD Vance and Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy specifically use the language of the managerial state or the administrative state and recognize the need to dismantle these organizations, that in itself is huge. Just the fact that Elon went in and eventually, just decimated the US aid and cut off all these progressive funding networks that were absolutely just funding our political enemies all around the world. That's just the tip of the iceberg of what is necessary. But I'm glad to see that it has started.
The name of the book, The Total State, How Liberal Democracies Become Tyrannies. Aaron, you also have your own show. You're also with the Blaze Network. How do people find you? How do they get the book, sir?
Well, of course, you can get the book on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million. The show is on Blaze TV if you'd like to get all of the content. But of course, we go out on all the podcast platforms, YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, all that stuff over on Twitter, or X, I guess we're calling it now. So yeah, all the standard places you'd want to look.
Aaron McIntyre, pleasure. Thanks for coming on the program and the conversation. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. And ladies and gentlemen, when we take the break, we'll come back with Kenneth Abramowitz. We're going to talk about a nuclear Iran. How close are they? What do we need to do to stop them? I'm broadcasting live, not from my normal studio, but here I am in the St. Louis, Missouri area for a couple of days. Stand by. We'll be back here in just a second. Lakey Unleashed. Good morning or good afternoon if you're listening on the podcast.
1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning is on call 24/7, even on weekends and holidays. We pride ourselves in our on-time guarantees. In addition to installation and repairs, we offer maintenance services. So no matter when you need us, you can always count on 1 Hour Heating and Air Conditioning to keep your system running. Check out our family of brands for all of your service needs, including electrical and plumbing.
Now we're heating and air conditioning.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. Two milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
Those are my dancing moves of the day. See that? Kind of the Trump dance, but different. Ladies and gentlemen, glad to have you here. Again, it's Lakey Unleashed. And the reason you see beautiful hotel artwork behind me is because I'm on the road for the next couple of days. I've been on the road really all month. Back to the Colorado studio. I shall be early next week for a few days. And then I'll be on the road again. But here we are in the St. Louis area, and glad to have you here. If you're new to the program, every day we have new people. We stream live on all the major platforms, many different pages, access to a lot of eyeballs out there. Live, 8 o'clock Mountain to about about an hour and 15 minutes, 8 o'clock. That's 10 o'clock Eastern. We stream live. And then as soon as the live stream is done, you're going to be able to go out there and do all the platforms, the Spotify, the Podbean, I think is one of them, iHeartRadio app, and you can listen to this, again, just audio only. You can stream live, listen to it, or watch it on all the platforms, but you can listen to it as a podcast later on in the day. So if you're just joining us and you missed the first half of the program in just a bit, go subscribe to us. It's just called Lakey Unleashed. It's brand new up on all the streaming podcast programs, platforms. That go subscribe to it. We're just starting that out. And also, if you're used to and familiar with me talking about a Patreon page, things behind the paywall, they're no longer behind paywall. Everything is now free content up at Patreon. On the podcast. So go find the Lakey Unleashed podcast on all your favorite platforms. All right, let me bring in my guest that's scheduled for now. His name is Kenneth Abramowitz. He's been with us before, not just here on this broadcast, streamcast, but he's also been with us on the old radio show, the terrestrial days. And he's the author of a book called The Multi-Front War, Defending America's from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. Kenneth Abramowitz, welcome back to the show, sir.
Great to be with you, as always.
Great to have you here, my friend. Let's kind of catch up a little bit this week. Israel, tariffs. We're finding out that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's going to make sure that it's very fair and we're not going to have tariffs with Israel. But there's also been, I guess, while he was in the White House, there was some discussion about what do we do with Iran and how close are they to a nuclear weapon? And I want to kind of pick up on that because our media is really obsessed with tariffs. They're obsessed with everything Donald Trump. But outside of America and tariffs and things like that, you have Iran, who's a rogue state. We mean business with them. We've been taking out the Houthis who they fund. We got a real problem in Iran. We got to keep a sharp eye on them. And I think our media distracts us and we don't get to see what's going on. So talk about how close are they to that nuclear weapon?
Well, they've been working on it for 30 years, and Israel has done its best to make life difficult for the nuclear program. But right now they're racing for a bomb. And you have to put the bomb on a ballistic missile. So they're racing for both. And every day that we wait, they get one day closer. And so I think their goal is to delay Trump 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and then blow off a nuclear weapon underground to show that they have it.
It's people have thought that Israel or the United States may have to drop some bombs. Maybe the research is buried deep. But we also hear that Iran is head of Newsmax today, or the front page of Newsmax says that they're looking to do a deal so that they have more time to spread this out. Where are we at? Are we on the brink of bombers dropping things on Iran? Are we on the brink of Iran being at the table? Because supposedly we're dealing with them directly right now.
Well, look, Iran has promised for 45 years now to take over the world and kill everybody who's not them. They want to kill all the Christians, all the Jews, all the Hindus. They want to particularly kill everyone in America and everyone in Israel, and they're a death cult. So you have to believe them. So I can't believe they're going to give up their nuclear weapons in negotiations. The only way they'll give up the nuclear weapons is if they're blown up by America and Israel.
The voice of Kenneth Abramowitz. If you are new to the program or you're only listening to the audience, I need to reset that. Let you know Kenneth Abramowitz. I'll tell you about his book here in just a second. You've written an entire book that really kind of talked about this multifaceted war. I was just talking about with R.N. McIntyre that we have wars breaking out as far as cultural wars in the state level, the local level. The pandemics brought about a lot of strife, racial divisions out there. We have to focus on them, and it sometimes is drinking from a fire hydrant. Again, we want to talk about political Islam, but we can't because we're talking about pandemics or we're talking about tariffs. They keep us running. Is this by design that they keep us distracted so we can't focus on anything?
Very, very good analysis. Yes, I've identified that we're fighting roughly 100 wars at the same time. Now, you can also call them issues, dilemmas, problems, and challenges. I call them wars. But can you do 100 things at the same time? Can you imagine if you had 100 programs going on simultaneously? Your head would be spinning.
Yeah.
And so it's a managerial nightmare to manage 100 issues at the same time. Now, corporations can do it. I come from the corporate world. But governments can't do 100 things at the same time. And yes, the bad guys are overloading us with challenges.
Kenneth Abramowitz is my guest. I was reading some comment. I hit a button and I accidentally put a comment on the screen. See, I can't do many things at one time. I thought I was doing one thing on my computer screen and I put comments up on the screen. I don't know if they're supposed to go there or not. So you're right. I can't do 100 things at one time. So since we know we have these battles going on everywhere, and they're all very important battles are for the future of humanity, the future of the next generation, the future of our nation. What is your advice? How do we stay focused and fight every battle the best we can? And do we need to prioritize certain ones?
Well, in the book, I took an idea that I have just by looking at the corporate world. And every major corporation has a number one, obviously, the chief executive officer or CEO, a number two, a chief operating officer or COO, and a number three, a chief finance officer or CFO. So in my book, I propose that President Trump have a strong number two and number three under him to manage the complexity. Number two is Mr. Tough Guy. In effect, Elon Musk is number two. And now he needs a number three, which I call Mr. Nice Guy or a policy coordinator to make sure that all of our challenges are met with consistent philosophy and resolve. And so I would like him to appoint a strong number three to manage the 100 challenges.
The name of your book, I always find this interesting when the word pandemic or COVID comes up in titles, because I don't think people realize what an all-defining moment that was. I asked my previous guest, you might have heard R.N. McIntyre with the Blaze Media. I said, how far did we get? Because he's written a book about how democracies become tyrannies. And I said, how far are we? He says, we got full-blooded there. When you could not go to church or synagogue, but you could go to the liquor store or the strip club, then we have gone full tyranny there. I think it's important, the multi-front war, you mentioned not just China, Russia, political Islam, but you mentioned pandemics, and kind of talk about the pandemic. Talk about how government globally and locally really waged war against us.
Well, I monitor 7 forms of warfare: physical or kinetic war, obviously, plus chemical, biological, which what you're just talking about, plus cultural, that's when you fight with words, plus economics, dollars, plus lawyers, lawfare, plus demographics, plus cyber. So I monitor all those 7 forms of warfare, and now you see why you need one person in charge of that mess.
Kenneth Abramowitz, the name of the book, again, I know you also have a website I want you to push as well, but the name of the book is called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. You also are the founder of SaveTheWest.com. People can get a copy of the book. What will they find at the website? It's time for you to plug away, sir.
The website is a public service. Everyone can sign up, and you get my article every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, you get an article from me right to your email, savethewest.com.
Kenneth Abramowitz, I appreciate you hopping on here the program. Again, the name of the book, available where fine books are sold, The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Strife. And you need to get a copy of the book because, again, we are drinking water from a fire hydrant, as the saying goes, and it's not easy to keep up. But these are all battles and all wars that we need to win, lest we lose the future that we want to give to our kids and grandkids. So it's called The Multi-Front War, Defending America from Political Islam, China, Russia, Pandemics, and Racial Strife. All right, I mentioned here in just a moment, we got another guest for Wall to Wall, Murray Sabrin, coming up here in just a second from the Mises Institute. But before we have Murray here on the program, I want to remind you that we have changed things up on how we're doing things. We have all these long form interviews. We've been doing this show for about 3-4 months now on the Streamcast platform, which means we're on all the platforms out there. We're on the several Facebook feeds, Twitter feeds, YouTube feeds, and wherever you watch it may say there's 40 people or 50 people, but overall throughout the day, there's hundreds of people that get to tune into the show. And it used to be that we just did the show live. You had to go find it. Well, as of this week, we have started as of Wednesday that as soon as the show's done, it also launches out on all the streaming platforms, the podcast platforms. So the show now in this version after the fact is up on iHeart, it's up on Spotify, just trying to grow the audience even more. And all the things that used to be behind what we call the Patreon page, which is patreon.com/Jimmy Lakey. The Patreon page is no longer, we stopped the billing on that several days ago, didn't even tell you about it. And we are moving slowly all the content that was behind the paywall out to the podcast platform. So iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts, all the content that used to only be free is now free. And all we ask you to do is subscribe to it, trying to grow those numbers. That's what you have to do this business in the analytics. And so we decided rather than charge a handful of people behind a paywall, why don't we give more people the access and build the numbers up? So help our gamble play off. We're just playing we're playing algorithm games is what we're doing. And we love you. We want the content to gather. It's really good content. So anyway, so whatever the case may be, wherever you listen to podcasts, go subscribe to our pages. We would appreciate that indeed. Here's one of the interviews that dropped a couple of weeks ago, and right now it's the second most hit. Now we just started this new stream, this new podcast stream. We just started it, but this is an interview that I did with Dennis Neal, who for years was on CNBC and also Fox Business News, a well-known reporter and author. He wrote a book on Elon Musk, and you heard Kenneth Abramowitz talking about Elon Musk. This is just a snippet. I think it's interesting because Dennis Neal's job was to kind of get in the head. The media's painting one picture of Elon. What is that picture? Who is this Elon Musk indeed? And one of the things that you have to know about Elon is that he views the world a little bit differently than us. We talk about ketamine. We talk about how he treats his autistic spectrum dilemma that he's on, but also he views the world that maybe he's just a grand performer and going for the fences because you never know who's watching him at all times. So again, this is the kind of stuff that this is the video of it, but you can listen to the audio of it just on the Streamcast, the podcast platforms today. We'll put the video up. Eventually we'll go on the YouTube channel and the Rumble channel, but right now all the audio for all these interviews. But here's a video portion of it. You can hear the audio on the Streamcast, but this is Dennis Neal talking about Brother Elon, and Brother Elon has a different maybe perspective about the globe that we live in. Anybody remember the Truman Show? Well, watch this.
And the opening lesson of my book might explain it. And lesson 1 says, all of this may be fake, so just go for it. Elon believes the chances may be billions to 1 in favor of the idea that we are living right now inside a video simulation that is so advanced, it could be thousands of years from now, that it's indistinguishable from reality, and we just don't even know it. And the more I started looking into this, the more I got goosebumps at the incredible, possibility of this. Now, let's put aside, and I even interviewed a physicist who thinks he's found evidence that this is so, that it's true. And it's rather fascinating. And I put him on my podcast, as a matter of fact. But here's the thing, never mind whether it's true. If you think there's a chance it may be, it frees you up to take bigger risk, to live louder, to love harder and more out loud, to take that new job that ordinarily you might turn it down because, oh gosh, it's just too much of a risk. Because what the heck, it all may be a game. And it ties into lesson 11, where Elon says, you know, in life, the most likely outcome often is the most ironic one, the most opposite of what you expected to happen. And it's the most entertaining outcome. Well,
All right, you get the idea, my friends. That's again all free now, and it's up there at all the stream. Look up Lakey Unleashed on all the platforms. All right, we've got Murray Sabrin in here from the Mises Institute. Murray, welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
Great to be with you, Jimmy. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, as they say. Depend on what issue you're on.
Depends on what issues. Let me get your thoughts. I know you have the Mises Institute, the way you follow economics and the way you like to view the world in economics. You have put out kind of, I wouldn't say a warning, but a warning that says, hey, we're doing some things in governance right now that maybe we're not acting like we're limited government advocates. Limited government should be central to what we do. We're not acting like it. I'll let you take it from there.
Well, the basic point I keep on making in my Substack is that we need to get the government out of areas that they have no constitutional authority to be in. And that includes just about everything that they do now. If you look at the federal budget, which was the theme of my piece that I wrote for the Mises Institute last month, toward financial independence and a constitutional federal budget. I read the Constitution, Article 1, Section 8, and it outlines the specific things that the government can do. And if it's not there, then the 10th Amendment says it's reserved to the people and the states. Therefore, we have a huge challenge because both Republicans and Democrats have increased the budget since the end of World War II, after the hostilities ended, and the welfare state has kicked in, the military-industrial complex has kicked in, and the issue now is trade. And the other founding document, as you know, is the Declaration of Independence. It's really ironic that Trump is president and he's calling for these trade restrictions, which are tariffs, when he doesn't realize that the Declaration says we are endowed by our Creator with unalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What does that mean? Life means you have to sustain yourself. How do you sustain yourself? You trade. You give up things that you have, like money, and buy things that you need: food, clothing, shelter, medical care, and other things. Liberty means we have the right to trade with whomever we want. Trade means peaceful exchange between a buyer and a seller, and the pursuit of happiness. How can you pursue your happiness if the government restricts your ability to buy things overseas at prices that are market prices instead of these horrific tariffs, which are nothing more than taxes on imported goods?
Let me ask you, Mark Saber, my guest from the Mises Institute. We'll talk about the great work of the Mises Institute in a second. I hear what you say, but let me ask you, before we had the income tax and the payroll deductions coming out of the early 1900s, our founders and our early country operated on these tariffs. So these are the principles of our early founders, and yet for life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and yet they also use tariffs. Reconcile the difference between them using tariffs then and Donald Trump using tariffs now, because they wrote the life, liberty, pursuit of happiness stuff, and they used tariffs.
Well, they used tariffs in two ways. One was to raise revenue to fund the federal government, and they also used tariffs to protect industries. In other words, the iron manufacturers in the 1820s got tariffs passed in order to keep out cheap products from overseas. The northern industrialists got the federal government to impose high protectionist tariffs to make sure that that they were getting less competition from overseas. The southern region of the country was an importing region because they were exporting cotton. They were importing goods from overseas, less expensive than they were from the northern industrialists. That was the tension that really gave rise to the war between the states, misnamed the Civil War. Then you had the tariffs of the 1930s during the Great Depression, as each nation tried to boost their economies by keeping out imports. That led to a tremendous conflict, an implosion of economic activity around the world. And Cordell Hull, who was Secretary of the State at the time, in his memoirs wrote that the trade tensions was one of the primary causes of World War II. So we have historical examples where tariffs have led to military conflict. And we've got to be cognizant of that. And so therefore, if you look at the tariffs prior to 1913, the reason we got the income tax was to reduce tariffs. What happened in the 1920s is we got the income tax plus tariffs went back to their pre-1913 level. So even though we had high tariffs during the Harding-Coolidge administration, we had a roaring economy because of the great technological breakthroughs that were occurring in the 1920s, the downsizing of the federal government after World War I. So you have a lot of cross currents in the economy, and it's the job of me and other people associated with the Mises Institute to sort this all out so the general public can understand. Government intervention harms both producers and consumers, whether they're in the United States or overseas.
Murray Sabrin, PhD, Mises Institute Associate Scholar, Emeritus Professor of Finance at Ramapo College of New Jersey, and he's published a lot of great books. His memoir is called From Immigrant to Public Intellectual, An American Story. Murray, talking about these taxes, income tax starting in 1913 to tariffs, you actually wrote Tax-Free 2000, The Rebirth of American Liberty, a blueprint on how to create a tax-free America in the 21st century. So this is a topic that you have been paying attention to for some time. And would we ever get back to that tax-free America? Some people say, let's go to tariffs, dump the income tax. It looks like we're trying to get a little bit of both.
Well, let me say something that is out of the box thinking. The tax issue is really a spending issue. If the federal government spends zero, then there'd be zero income taxes and zero payroll taxes. But we've built up this huge welfare warfare state that has to be funded, and it's not funded by the taxpayers completely because the federal government raises about $4.5 trillion in taxes, but it spends over $7 trillion. And the scary thing, Jimmy, is that the first 6 months of this fiscal year, Biden's last budget, the deficit is $1.3 trillion. If you analyze that, we're going to have a $2.5 trillion deficit this year, which is unconscionable in a country that's supposed to believe in limited government and fiscal responsibility. And my Republican friends say they're for fiscal responsibility, but what have they done to cut spending? Hopefully DOGE is pointing out the waste, fraud, and abuse. That's one aspect of spending that needs to be addressed. The other aspect is, what are the constitutional spending authorized by the federal government? That's why I've written this extensive essay. The Mises Institute essay is a condensed version of a longer essay that'll be published in an upcoming book on the philosophy and ethics of taxation. And so my job as a retired finance professor who's written about these issues for a long, long time is to get the word out to the American people, to change the hearts and minds of the people, that there is a pathway to being financially independent. We're coming up to the 250th anniversary of the Declaration, and so many people are dependent upon the federal government, i.e. the taxpayer, for their basic necessities of life, which is really a shame given the fact that the country was based upon independence.
Yeah. Murray, if somebody wants to read that essay that you're talking about, I know it's at the Mises Institute, tell them where they can read your work, where they can get your books, and how do they follow you, sir?
Okay, murraysabrin.substack.com. I usually do 2 or 3 commentaries a week. My essay is called Toward Financial Independence and a Constitutional Federal Budget. You can Google that on the Mises.org website. And all my books are available on Amazon. I've written 6 books. The first one was 30 years ago, the Tax-Free 2000 book. I've written 2 books on healthcare. I've written a book on the Federal Reserve and 1 book on the business cycle, and then my recent book on the memoir. But the point I want to make is Trump has an enormous opportunity to point out the failure of the federal government to give us what the founders envisioned, which is limited government, personal responsibility, and a free enterprise economy. We are far away from that. The amazing thing, Jimmy, is that the men and women entrepreneurs of America are able to produce goods and services that we want, despite the taxes, the regulation, the mandates, and all the other things that the government throws at them. And yet here we are with an incredible standard of living today where prices for a lot of necessities are lower than they were years ago, especially high-tech items. I mean, you look at high-tech TVs and other things. I remember buying a TV for $900. You can get that same TV today for $200. That's the beauty of the free enterprise system.
Murray, I got to run. I appreciate you. Murray Sabrin, look him up on the, look him up. Look him up indeed. Hey, coming up here on the program is going to be Doug Giles. That's coming up here in just a moment. Oh, I'm looking here and I misjudged here. Hey, that doesn't need a bumper, does it? Okay, this doesn't need a bumper. That's just my cue. Mike, sorry, that need the bumper. We don't need the bumper for me to talk about Sherry Creed. Homes, before we go to our next guest, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Listen, my friends, if you are thinking of a real estate transaction the spring of the year, the summer of the year, you need to time that correctly. You need to make sure you have a bigger plan than just putting a sign in the yard. Sherry Creed, homeswithsherry.com is her website. She wants to become your realtor for life. And she's had people actually call her up 2, 3, 4, 5 years later and say, Sherry, remember us? You sold our home 10 years ago. Would you come back and help us again? They literally, of all the choices, all the people they met, they wanted to go back to Sherry. This is the kind of expertise that she brings to the table. I recommend her for you. And if you're in, let's say you're up north in Fort Collins, you're down south in Castle Rock, you're somewhere in the Denver, Boulder area, wherever you may be, if you're in the Colorado Front Range, listen. I want you to call Sherry Creed, talk with her. She can talk to you about what it means right now with interest rates, the economy, with the market, which pockets of the Colorado area are booming, which ones are not, which ones have the biggest potential for you. And she wants to become your realtor for life because she knows that if you play the game right in real estate, that you can end up having generational wealth for your kids and your grandkids. And so she wants to help you walk through that journey and celebrate at the very end. She just recently went to a retirement party for someone she helped sell their home, and she was the most popular, most hated person at the party. The people that were moving and got to retire and sell their home, they were celebrating and wanted Sherry to come to the party. The neighbors that were losing a good friend out of the neighborhood were they were giving her a hard time about selling it so quickly. Homeswithsherry.com. Have a conversation, a consultation. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. And be sure to tell her you heard about her on the Lakey Unleashed Streamcast, homeswithsherry.com. All right, we're running short. We have Doug Giles coming up here in just a moment, but popping up on the screen right now is Risa Ryan. And she is, let me get the exact screen up. Yeah, there it is. I can see it now. Risa Ryan, CEO, founder of the Unretire Group. Risa, is that correct, or Risa? Oh, I can't hear you. Let's make sure you're not muted here. Risa, can I hear you? I still don't hear Risa. Let's try it again. Nope, I can lip read, though. I'm really good at lip reading. For some reason, we're not getting Risa's microphone there. She's looking to see if she's...
All right, is that me? Can you
there
hear me now?
You are.
Let's do that over.
Is it Risa or Risa?
Risa.
Risa, nice to meet you here on the program. You are, let me get the exact details. You're the CEO and founder of the Unretire Group. And first of all, tell us what the Unretire Group is, because that's going to set up our topic of conversation.
Perfect. We are a platform that connects retirees from the insurance industry with companies in the insurance industry, whether it's a reinsurance company, insurer, broker, agent, whatever, with retirees for project work. It's, there's so many job boards out there. Indeed, LinkedIn, all of those, except none of them are focused on project work. And 40% of the insurance industry is eligible to retire in the next 4 or 5 years. These folks don't, many of them don't want to leave the industry, but would rather pick up project works, like just kind of a gig economy in the insurance industry. So that's what we've done. We've created this incredible platform, and retirees can post, or companies can post these projects. Retirees apply right online.
Now, some people will be afraid they're going to lose their Social Security, lose their benefits. If they make too much money, they're going to go over the income thresholds. I mean, are there any kind of restrictions if folks pick up gig work as a retiree? Are there things they have to be aware of?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you have to talk to your financial advisor for that. That's not my area, but certainly before you pick up these projects, make sure you know what you're doing from a financial standpoint. But they are typically projects we're going to see from, a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and a couple of $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars. It's not full-time work. It's not even part-time work. It really is just gig work. And it's an idea that has not been done in the insurance industry, or honestly in financial services. There are platforms, there Upwork, Freelancer, couple others in the kind of the creatives world, where videographers, photographers, and that sort, like content providers, can pick up gig work, but nothing in financial services.
Are you seeing an uptick in people interested? Are people worried about the economy when they do these this type of gig work, or are they just kind of getting bored? I mean, you sometimes see the retiree just become the Walmart greeter because they're tired of being around the house. How much of this is boredom, and how much is this fear of the economy?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's people retire, especially, we started in 2022 with this idea when people were leaving because they didn't want to go back into work after COVID, and they liked the flexibility. They had maybe hit a number, whether that was an age or a financial number. And so they left. And then, you fast forward 6 months, a year later, and the economy, inflation during that point was up 7, 8, 9%. Which most people probably didn't bake into their financial plans for retirement. And then you're also 6 months into it, you're thinking, oh my God, am I really going to do this for the next 30 years? I think there is some uncertainty, certainly with, the situation with tariffs and taxes and inflation and all of that. Is it transitory? Is this kind of just short-term pain for the long-term gain? Probably, but I think it's made people very skittish, and they're watching their 401ks take a hit. And you know what? Let me pick up $5,000 for my next vacation, or for Christmas, or whatever it is. I think people are concerned, for their finances, but then also just they're getting bored.
Yeah.
And
I see somebody posted up a question here. We'll wrap up here, but it says, Risa, do you have to maintain your licenses, or are these non-licensed positions?
These are non-licensed positions. I mean, certainly there are a lot of positions that you will need an agent's license for. But I mean, these are certainly compliance jobs. They're underwriting jobs. They are claims jobs. So if you're a claims adjuster or a loss control expert, there are a lot of projects out there that don't require licenses, just seasoned expertise.
Risa, if somebody wants to contact you, your organization, the great work you do, where do they go, ma'am?
They go to unretire.io or Risa at unretire.io.
So I interrupted you. You say both of those again.
Yeah. Sorry. Unretire.io is our website, or they can just contact me at Risa at unretire.io.
Risa, appreciate you hopping on. Interesting. I had no clue. Learned something new today about kind of a gig economy for those who have retired out there. Unretire.io, unretire.io. Ladies and gentlemen, we're running 3 minutes and 52 seconds behind schedule. I want to welcome into the program the amazing, illustrious, my brother from a different mother, Doug Giles, on the show. Brother, how are you, sir?
Jimmy, how you doing, big dog?
I'm doing quite well. I'm broadcasting from the Show Me State of Missouri. And so far, it's just shown me some rain and drizzle. That's all it's shown me so far.
Yeah, they got the crap beat out of them a couple of weeks ago, man. My brother moved from West Texas, Tornado Alley. He's like, I'm going to move to southern Indiana and get away from these tornadoes. Wow. Oh, my God, man. It's I feel bad. That's some horrible stuff. I lived in the 806 area code, Lubbock, Texas, and the 305 and the 305, Miami, Florida. I went from tornadoes to hurricanes, and I'll tell you what, Mother Nature can be a bitch sometime, can't you?
I grew up, growing up, my grandparents lived in West Texas, in a little town called Childress, Texas, and we had a storm cellar out back, or she had a storm cellar, and she always, at storm season, the grandkids would go stay. She put her Bible in a baggie because she wanted to take her Bible to the storm cellar because if she's going to get blown away, she'd go with her Bible. And then she'd tell all the grandkids to stay in there, line your shoes up next to your bed. And sure enough, she'd hear the sirens or get out of bed. We'd have to, little 8-year-old Jimmy go down to the storm cellar, and then grandma had her Bible in a baggie, and we just sit there waiting for the storm to pass, waiting for those tornadoes to go over. And I'll never forget, sometimes she was going to go get up and see if it was all clear, and then she'd be gone for a long time. And I think she was just getting some peace of mind and leaving us down there for a while while she just got away from the grandkids.
Yeah, she's smoking a joint down in the cellar, man. I remember it well. The sirens would, go off, and it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're just running across the street to Ed Strickland's house to dive down his cellar because he's the only one in the block that had one.
Yeah.
And you've got 20 people in there, that are in raggedy old nightgowns and boxer shorts, but it's a freak festival, man. The thing I like about living in Miami is that you got 2 weeks, and if you can't get out of the way from a hurricane in like 2 or 3 weeks, then you need to die. Okay, with the tornadoes, they just drop out of the sky like Jason Voorhees, and they're just flinging stuff.
They're flinging stuff. The voice of Doug Giles, by the way, don't forget, everything now is also a podcast, so it goes up after the show at the Lakey Unleashed podcast on the Apple Podcast, the Spotify, the iHeartRadio. So some of you are now only listening to the stuff later in the day, but this is all happening live. You can always watch us live on all the platforms, but also streaming on the podcast later on, Lakey Unleashed on all the podcast platforms you love. All right, Doug, you sent me a story that I've been following because it happened right here in the great state of Colorado. And I want to put this up on the screen. There's old Donald Trump. Now, you're an artist. He looks a little bloated there. That was hanging in the hallowed halls of the Colorado Capitol. Give me your thoughts here.
Yeah, if I was Trump, I'd be pissed too. Sarah Broadman, and she's a Brit. I think she's in her late 70s. She decided that she was hired to do a portrait of Trump. And again, like you said, it's hanging in the state capitol, or it was. They pulled that crap down. But Trump got wind that somebody, turned him into some kind of pudgy Hank Hill, horse-faced doofus, and he got wind of it, and he put out a Truth Social message saying that she clearly lost her talent as she got older, and he went on to rag on her and your governor for putting that kind of garbage up. Because if you look at the other presidents, so you got Bush, you got Clinton, and then Obama. Oh my God, Jimmy, Obama looks like frickin' Xerxes from the movie 300. And then right next to Trump, or right next to Obama, is Trump. And man, I'm telling you, I've painted Trump over 50 times, 50 different portraits of Trump. And that ain't the man, man. That ain't the man. Trump's a pipe-hitting, nut-cutting freedom fighter who's hilarious, who's decisive, who's in command. And that guy is an insurance salesman from Lydafart, Arkansas. I don't know who that is, but that's not Donald Trump.
I heard this lady on one of the newscasts in Colorado where I am based. I'm not there now, but I heard this weekend she was complaining to one of the big radio stations that the criticism was hurting her business and ruining her reputation. And I'm like, honey, it wasn't the criticism. It's the actual rendering of the art that you go, yeah, you ain't that good, honey.
Yeah, and again, she's the one. I watched her doing the photo selection of the portrait. So the photo that she chose to render, it sucked. I would have never used it. Again, I've painted Trump 50 plus times, and I've got the book, the Trump Collection, where everybody can have a compilation of all my hilarious Trump portraiture. And I've gone through, I don't know how many images, Jimmy, of just looking through so that I could manipulate and depict, Trump in all of his gravity-defying, finger-perfecting madness. And she picked the dumbest damn picture I've ever seen in my life. And then she did a full-on retard rendering of the worst picture ever of Trump. And she's like, it wasn't biased. It passed a committee. It passed a committee in Colorado, you stupid lady. They hate Trump. They tried to pull him off the ballot, in 2020. You think they're going to put him up there where he looks like Dash Riprock? No, they're going to put some kind of stooge photo, and she can bitch and moan all she wants, but she's the one who trotted that crap forward. And now people are saying, we don't want your stuff. Here's what I did. We put on a T-shirt, Jimmy. I don't know if you can see this, but this is the Trump Cajonte T-shirt.
Yeah.
Now, does he look weepy, Jimmy?
No, he looks like you just a black and white photo. That looks like realistic Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, and he looks like he's going to kill Martians. He's all business, and and again, this looks like some guys on a perp walk because he got caught, by his wife watching gay porn or something. It's just horrible, man. It's really bad.
Oh, the chat rooms over here love the phrase. They've never heard of Light of Fart, Arkansas, but I hear they have a Allsops or something. I don't know.
Yeah, so Light of Fart, Arkansas is right next to Tweedle Your Ballsack, Arkansas, also. So
Right.
It's kind of like a St. Paul, Minneapolis type enclave.
The Twin Cities there. All right. So you say she started with a bad photo,
Yeah.
and people don't know you went to like a fancy art school. I mean, you're a trained artist here, and obviously natural talent. What else did she do wrong? She started with a bad photo. He looks a little puffy. I mean, critique that if she was in a competition.
Yeah, again, bad photo. In regards to just the execution of it, I'm looking at it right now. It's just your standard non-sexy portraiture, and again, I know it's it went into the State House there in Colorado, so you're not going to get anything, that's too funky or too avant-garde. But it's just bland, man. The lighting's not good. And again, when people look at Obama and the way that he's lit and the whole contrast aspect where he pops hard, off the canvas, Trump's not doing it. This thing is bland. It's as bland as it comes. It's his suit is very one-dimensional.
Yep.
It's too fussy, and it's not it's not impactful. There's no grandeur. You can love or hate Trump, but he's a force of nature, man, and you need to paint him as a force of nature.
The lines on his face, that's not the shape of his face. Is the face the hardest thing to paint? I mean, because you do some great faces. Have you painted Trump, and the one, just the profile you just showed looks like it could have just been a augmented photo. Is the line of the face the hard to get the right shape?
Yeah, this three-quarter turn into the viewer, I'm not a fan of that. Again, I've painted Trump a gazillion times. I mean, he's a squinter. This kind of doe-eyed crap that she's doing. Trump squints a lot, man. And again, I know I can paint him in my sleep. And what I say about portraiture is that if you're not good at it, walk away, man. Do abstract. Yep. And this is the reason why I think that she purposely crapped on Trump in this portrait, because she nailed Obama, just absolutely nailed it. The Bush is okay. Clinton's a little better than Bush. Again, Bush, Republican. He kind of looks like some, banjo player in the Deliverance movie. And so people can say that they don't have biases, but it shows through. But if I was going to get hired, Jimmy, going back to your points, like, hey, quit complaining about people dumping your services and merchandise because you depicted Trump like a full-on dolt. If I was being hired to paint Bernie Sanders, I'd knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
I wouldn't approach it and it's like, I'm going to make him look like a douche, unless that was the whole point. It's like, let's turn Bernie into a more Drucker character from Mad Magazine. Okay, I'm down with it. But if you're going to ask me to render where that thing is going to stay on a wall in a state house and be seen by hundreds of thousands of people, I'm going to kill it, even though I might loathe the politics of the patron,
Do you have Bernie's hair standing up straight, or is it laying flat? Those are decisions artistic along the way. You have to.
I think I go with the Larry, coming off from the sun. But he does hit some of the electricity that's in Fort Collins, and so if it's a Colorado portrait, it might get some airborne, the vertical type stuff. Yeah,
that's it. And scream the oligarchy, the oligarchy. Doug Giles, you've got a whole book of Trump art. If people want to know how to do the art of Trump. It's a coffee table book. You've got wall hangings for Trump. Everybody go to douggiles.art, douggiles.art. And here we go. There's the Trump art book.
Yeah. It doesn't make him look like a little a little scared, forlorn, and feckless 5-watt light bulb of a president. Oh no, you know.
Listen, Doug Giles, pleasure, sir. I will be back into. Oh, here we go. Will Biden's portrait be sitting on the side of a pool, kids rubbing his leg hair, and Joe scowling about corn pop? That could be.
Yeah, I did one of Biden, and I merged Biden with Ben Stiller's character from Tropic Thunder, where he played Simple Jack, and so it's simple. So Joe's got Simple Jack's hair, and underneath it says "Don't go full retard."
Is that for sale? People may want to buy that.
I think it's still up. We had some problems because our printers didn't like that one. It could be in the Trump collection. I forget, but we had to pull it one time during the regime of Air Biden.
Okay, next week when you're next on, you need to hold it up at least so we can see it. We'll sell it at the black market. Doug Giles, always a pleasure. All things Doug Giles, DougGiles.art is all your art, DougGiles.org. Appreciate you, my friend. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week. DougGiles.org, or if you wanted to check out his Trump collection of art, DougGiles.art. And check that out. I'm still getting comments about Lidafart, Arkansas. I think I have relatives that actually live there. I think I do. They might have moved. I'm not sure. Don't we have viewers from Arkansas, right? Did they live near Lidafart? We need to find that out. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a pleasure. I want to remind you, if I could, to make a donation. See right there on my Hat Rivers Promise. We are short on our food money. We've been running short all year long. It has been a trying year for our charity. If you donate $30, you feed a kid for 2 meals for 30 entire days, for 1 entire month. So 2 meals a day. It's about $1 a day to feed a kid. And we have been short on budget, yanking from the general fund to get it done. And we know it picks up later in the year. We have some fundraising events of our casino gala, which is going to focus on raising a lot of money that we can operate some of these things with. But if you'd like to donate today, I know it's payday for some of you, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Again, here's the impact you can have. $30 feeds a child. This is a child that ordinarily would not probably eat at all in a day, maybe not once or twice a week. Feeds a child 2 meals a day for 30 days, for 1 month. It's $1 a day to feed a kid. And they're good meals. You can go on our website and see some of the photos. You can see we're feeding them good at our Legacy Christian Academy. $30 is the food. Now, if you want the child to also pay for their school, just $65 will pay for the food. It will also keep a kid in school for 1 month. It'll provide their school uniforms. It'll provide their health insurance. It provides their basic amenities and needs at home. So if you could just set up a $65 recurring donation, that takes care of one child every month that's going to school, getting food, going to school, getting food, all in our Legacy Christian Academy. Now, if you want to pick a specific child, go to the website, hit sponsorship, and you can pick a specific child that you want to make sure they're in school. But it's riverspromise.org, $65. You do not have to pick a specific child. You could just set up a recurring donation for $30 or $65, and that's what you're going to get for that $30. $30 is going to feed a child 2 meals a day for 1 month. It's $30 a month to feed a child 2 meals a day. $65 a month keeps that kid in school, provides in their school uniforms, their scholastic materials, which are books and papers and pens and all the stuff they need. It also provides amazing health care insurance. And so kids that were, a lot of the majority of these kids it was a miracle of these kids when we first got there 10, 12 years ago. If they could live above the age of 4 or 5, it was a miraculous thing. And now they're living and someone going to college, and we're sending them to college. So if you'd like to help us today, $30 feeds a kid 2 meals a day for an entire month. If you could do 1 month, do 1 month. If you could just set it up as a $30 recurring donation every month, we would appreciate it. $65 changes the game for us. $65 includes their school fees. It includes their food. It includes their insurance. It includes some basic life amenities. Maybe they need some new clothes outside of their school uniform. It includes all of that. Riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org. Now, if you like to have fun in giving, here's what you do. Go to our website right now, riverspromise.org. Register for our casino gala. It's coming up in just over 1 month away. It's May the 17th at the Omni Interlaken Resort in Broomfield. We'd love to have you there. It's all for fun. Learn how to play some casino games you never got to play before. And it's all just, again, a hoot and a holler. Live music is going to be there. And you don't want to miss the live music. And you also, my friends, don't want to miss just the fun. Producer Chad will be there. I will be there. It's going to be a great night. Get registered. Prices do go up soon. It's presented by Budget Home Supply in Longmont. We want to see you May 17th, but you got to get registered and signed up in advance. Everybody have a great weekend. I'm in Missouri, and I'll be here entire weekend watching some college football spring game tonight, hanging out with my son. Thanks to all of our sponsors. Thanks to all of you. Don't forget, go subscribe to the new podcast version of this on all your podcast platforms. That's iHeart, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever the case may be. Go find Lakey Unleashed, the podcast. And also while you're there, find the Critical Mission. We got some new stuff coming there as well. Until we meet again next week, don't forget riverspromise.org. Make a donation. I want to check the inbox here in a second and see that I heard from some of you. Until then, may God bless you. May God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.